Let's go. I see Albert. So let's begin. Everyone, welcome to We Talk Art, and it is my extreme pleasure to be able to welcome Albert Handell to our session today. Albert, thank you for agreeing to join me and talking a little bit about what your art has meant to you over the years, and we're going to see a bunch of your work and talk about a whole bunch of different art things. So welcome to We Talk Art, Albert.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for doing such a nice job promoting it and getting all these lovely people together so that we can do this. Okay. I'm not too sure where to start.
You know what, Albert, what I would love for you to do is just tell us how you got started with your art career, from what
Okay.
prompted you as a kid to do art?
Okay. When I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, I was overprotected, so I didn't go on roller skates and all that type of stuff. But Luncheonette on the corner had for 2 cents a little box of 3 pieces of white chalk. And I started dabbling with that, and I liked it. And people were starting to pat me on the head. I'm 7 years old or something. Then for a nickel, I was able to buy a few colors. And I found myself engrossed just drawing on the sidewalks. And people said, "You must be an artist." And hearing that was very important. And I took it on. And later, I was looking at the magazine
If you're on the Zoom call, please mute your computer so we're not getting reverberation from conversations on the background. Thank you. Go ahead, Albert.
So I wanted to be an artist like the illustrators were in Collier's and Saturday Evening Post and all that. And I went to the High School of Industrial Arts, which was in Manhattan. And it seemed like they were getting me ready to be an art director or something rather than an artist or an illustrator. When I say illustrator, it means artist. And one of my teachers had some people wearing bathing suits and standing on a table. And I loved drawing. And I asked him, where can I do more of that? And he said, go to the Art Students League of New York, which is not that far away. And I went there at the age of 16, and I was going to see my first nude. I can't tell you how excited I was. And a lady came in, walked behind the screen, came out with a bathrobe, got up on the model stand, took off the bathrobe. No big deal. My heart was beating for no reason. But I had a different reason. I was looking at the other drawings by the other people, and they were better than mine. And I asked them about classes and all that. And they had one on Saturdays. And I started living for Saturdays. And I learned how to draw and using the nude, a few portraits. And then I wanted to start painting. And I ended up with Frank Mason's class for two or 3 years. And I was getting pretty good. But back then, 1957, I was 20. And if you were interested in realism, they thought something was wrong with you because don't you realize, quote, it's been done, unquote. And after a certain amount of that stuff, I went to Europe for a few years, where the people who I admired, Corot and Delacroix and all that, were, and I spent 4 years there painting with oils, and it was a relief. I didn't have any tapes in my head. And I came back, and somehow I had arranged, I don't know how I did it, but I was part of the ACA gallery on West 57th Street. It was a big deal. And I had a one-man show scheduled for September. I'm working away with oils. And when I say I'm working away with oils, it's every day. And after a few months of every day, the well is empty. And I don't want to keep doing it. The inspiration is gone. So I've gone through that a few times. It lasts for like 3, 4, 5 weeks. I would do a lot of drawing. I used to play volleyball and all that. But in any event, a word came up from inside of me, pastel. So I contacted my friends, Dan Green, Bert Silverman, Harvey Dennerstein, Aaron Schickler, what to buy. So I bought What to Buy, and it felt like, hey, this is great. I had, it was fresh, different, yet the same. I found that pastels, because it's a dry medium, is more flexible, and you can draw and paint more simultaneously than with oils. At least that's my impression of it. And I like the immediacy of it. And I liked all those colors. So I was saved. My show opened at the ACA gallery, and the large room had the oils, and the small room had the pastels. And I couldn't own up to it then and there that I preferred the pastels. I mean, pastels are secondary medium. It's this and that. Back then,
Bless you.
Tony, could you please mute your computer? Thank you.
so it was considered a secondary medium. Pastels after Degas more or less becomes a boardwalk portrait media. I mean, Dan Green was on the boardwalks in New Jersey. Can you imagine that? And it was used to make comps, so you could show the art director what you were going to paint for the magazine. So it was considered a secondary medium, and it was under glass, and it goes on and on. As a matter of fact, the story goes that in one of the New York shows, now this is a story that I didn't collaborate with, but I'll tell you the story. that the pastels, there was an argument among the jurors, is it a painting or is it a drawing? Well, it's done without a brush, so it's not a painting, but it's done with God knows how many colors, and that sounds like a painting. Supposedly, there was some confusion, and they threw the pastels out, or they put it into the watercolor category or something like that. So it was demeaning to work with pastels in 1969. And here I am, incredibly in love with it. I said, holy Moses, this is, I didn't have any shoulds or shouldn'ts or anything like that. It was a different medium. It's a matte medium. That means the darks are harder to get, but the other colors sing like birds. It's beautiful. In oils, you can get the darks easier, but if you put too much white into your color mixtures, the colors look chalky. So whatever it was, by that time I knew oils very well. So the person who was the director of the gallery knew Bill Holden, who was the chief editor of Watson and Guptill art publications. And they contacted him. He came in and he said, I like it. He contacted me and he said, we are re-editing a book called Pastel by Eleanor Lathrop Sears, and we'd like you to be part of it. I said, okay, sure. He said, but you got to do 2 step-by-steps for this. That was a problem then, but I did them. And the book came out in 1970 or something like that, and my life was different. Also, Gifuni, I'm not too good with names. They slip away from me. And it's not because I'm getting older. I am getting older. But even when I was 18, I had trouble with names. Flora B. Gifuni. She was a pastelist, and she studied with a guy named Brackman, who did oils and pastels. And she liked to do pastels, and she didn't like the way pastelists were treated. So she was part of the National Arts Club, and she started the Pastel Society of America. Now, Flora Gifuni was married to one of the Gifuni brothers who built skyscrapers. And for first place, they had $1,000. For second place, they had $1,000. Then the Kramers who rent the things over supper said, Flora, what's happening? And Flora explained this and that. And suddenly there's another $500, another $500. By the time the first judging was to be done, they had more money for that show than the National Arts Club, than the National Academy, which is the oldest exhibition in New York City. I was one of the 3 judges. Can you imagine that? I've been painting with pastel for a year or 2, and so I, Dan Green, and Gustav names. There were 3 of us there, and we judged the show. And like I say, by being in that exhibition, one-man show, and being in that book, and then being part of the Pastel Society of America, my prominence in the media grew like crazy. And etc. Let's see. Okay. I should throw this on the table. Except for 11 weeks, twice, I never had a paycheck. I never had a job. And those 11 weeks, twice, I was asked by the university to give those classes. How I did it, how I am here now, I don't know, but I'm here. And a lot of my friends didn't want a job. They wanted to just paint. And they went through all sorts of things. And I'm sure I went through all sorts of things, but here I am. So I was working on portraits and figure, and I'm in Woodstock, New York, 1970 to 1983. And I look out the window and I see this incredible old tree there. And I said, well, I'm going to try it. Now, pastel is a studio medium. I mean, endless chalks, hard, soft, different colors. You don't just, like I tell my students, if you're going out on location, it's called plein air these days. If you're an oil painter and you go out with 4 colors or 5 colors, you can actually paint a painting. But if you went out there with 4 pastels or 5, you couldn't make a painting. You could make a drawing, yeah, but so you have to look at, let's jump to music for a moment. You have to look at painting with oils like the violin, 4 or 5 strings, and you just carry it around with you. And pastel is more like the piano, and you're not going to carry that with you. So getting it to be portable was a difficult thing. But I did it, and I loved doing it. And I started incorporating it in my workshops in Woodstock, New York. And it helped catch on the idea of going outdoors with pastels. I got involved with trees, rocks and water. I did a lot of work measuring when you do portrait work. I tried some commissions. I did 2 or 3 of them. I was very anxious doing them. I didn't know if the grandmother would like them or not. And I said, I can't handle this. But I like to do people that interest me. I used to pay them to sit. And once in a while, some of these people just had no money. And they were so thrilled to sit for me that I let them borrow the pastel painting for a month to show their friends. And then it was all mine. One thing led to the other. And I started getting articles in American Artists, the Artist magazine, all sorts. And I don't know. These days, I'm going to jump around a little bit. To stay fresh, I work with my pastels on location, and they're smaller. 16 by 20 is about as big as I like to go. Once in a while, an 18 by 24. Most of the time, 14 by 18, 12 by 16. And I like to paint larger works in the studio with oils. Now let's talk about going outdoors painting. In my mind, there are three attitudes that I could think of offhand. One, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to relate to what's out there. I'm going to respond. It's going to be spontaneous, and I ain't touching it. Next idea could be, I'm going to go out there, do the best I can, and not drive myself crazy if it's finished or not. I worked on it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You know, I like to work in sunlight, and sunlight changes, you know, it's not like a gray day. So I say to myself, I've done the best I can, and I turn it to the wall. And a week later, a day later, whatever it is, I turn it around, and whatever hits me right then and there, that has to be darker. I make it darker. That has to go. It goes out. That has to be brighter. It gets brighter and stuff like that. So it's intuitive in a way. And then there's the other person who says, I like to paint landscapes, but I'll be damned if I go out there. I'll work for my photographs. So you have these different attitudes, and there's probably many other attitudes in between those extremes. And my fresh look, how do I find my subjects? First of all, I don't like to travel in a car for a long time. If Linda Wells, my mate, and she paints nicely also. If we're going to paint in Taos tomorrow morning, we sleep in Taos tonight. We don't sleep here in Santa Fe and drive up to Taos. By that time, I'll be visually exhausted. And then if I'm walking towards a waterfall, by the way, I know these, okay, I'm walking towards a waterfall, and a group of rocks grabs my attention. I have my eyes open all the time. Suddenly, something along the route grabs my attention. It's spontaneous. It's like as if you were at the airport and a good-looking man or a good-looking woman walked by and they catch your eye. You don't worry about the measurements. It caught your eye. Well, that's how I look at my intuitive response to those rocks. Something there touch something inside of me. I mean, I have my eyes open all the time. And I say, well, if it hits me, there's something there. And I forget the waterfalls, and I set up and paint that. So more and more it becomes intuitive. Linda, what should I talk about?
Ask if they have a question.
Do you, okay, ask if you have any questions. Is there a question somewhere?
First of all, Albert, Doug Wagner just said, you know, thank you for being so instrumental in helping form the Pastel Society of the West Coast. And somebody else also said that, you know, it's fascinating to hear your overview of your history. So how did you being from the East Coast, how did you end up coming to the Southwest?
I was in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, And a whole group of students were at the marketplace, and they said their teacher paints like Rembrandt and draws like Michelangelo. I said, good, I'd like to meet him. And his name was Alvin Gittins. And we got along beautifully. See, realism back then, we were hiding in closets. I mean, it's not like it is now. Believe me when I tell you this. And it turned out that at the University of Utah, God bless them, they had locals, people who were teaching there, who studied there, and they had outsiders, people who were teaching there, and they got them to come in from outside. And they had one too many people who was ingrown, and they had to get an outsider. And Alvin Gittins was contacted, and he said, would you like to do it? I was running around trying to find a cheap place to live, to be honest with you. And this was a paycheck. That was my first paycheck. I said, yeah. So my wife at the time and myself, we went up to Salt Lake City, and I saw the countryside in the west. And I went down to the Grand Canyon. I flipped out. And the people were very nice. They're so nice. I was standing on a corner, and 2 or 3 of the youngsters are coming around smiling and laughing. And I was looking behind me, is there a setup here? You know, I'm from New York City. And you have to. So I liked it. I went to an opening one time, and they were talking about cows or something. And I said, oh, it's time for me to go back east. And I went to,
Woodstock.
no, not Woodstock, went to Pennsylvania. And my wife at the time, she loved the university. She was Phi Beta Kappa, whatever you call it. And there was a postal strike. This is Nixon time. And my show flopped in Long Island. So she got a job in the Woodstock, New York area. So we went up there, and I loved it, and I hated it. It was interesting. The weather is severe compared to Santa Fe, but the subject matter was all over the place. The mountain streams and trees and stuff like that. And I got involved with that subject. First with oils. I used to go out there with nice size oils, 24 by 30, 22 by 28. Those are big. And block it in, not take any photographs, because my education at the Art Students League was simple. If you want to be a fine artist, you work from life. And if you work from photographs, you are an illustrator. And God forbid you're considered an illustrator. God forbid. So I never drew or painted a portrait from a photograph. But landscape is different. I encourage my students, especially if it's under sunlight, to take a photograph every 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes, and then photograph your own work. You know, you have these here cameras that you put in your back pocket, it's not a problem. And then you can compare your subject in the last 2 hours, how it changed. Because if it does change and you're not clear about the change, you're going to be wandering around blind, so to speak. So, and then also, I give a lot of workshops, and I like to reinforce the strong parts of each artist. In other words, you're doing well for 20 minutes, and then it falls apart. Well, I like to, rather than patch up what went amiss, I have two ideas. One, let's reinforce and practice the good parts that you can do. And let's build onto that and be thankful. Now, you might be frustrated because you didn't get everything you wanted. That's true. That's true. But as you try and get everything else, you're going to weaken your strong point. So to satisfy our desires, I'm talking about me now, okay? I prefer going back there the next day and with a different size, a different shape or something, and do a different aspect of the same subject. So I have found that by doing variation of a theme, one thing crosses over to the other thing, and you don't mutilate something that you kind of got, but you didn't get it all. And, I get excited with all this stuff. And I find, for me, I work in both mediums. And I have found the crossover backwards and forwards fascinating. Just fascinating.
So how did you get to Santa Fe?
Oh, how did I get to Santa Fe? Well, after a while, the weather in upstate New York was too much. Long winters. I remember looking for the pussy willows for the first sign of maybe spring. And I heard all sorts of things about the West. And I picked up a copy of Southwest Art, and I looked through it and I said, this crap is doing well. Oh, I'll make a living. Making a like I say, I don't know how I got here. But here I am. And I decided I'll go out there. And I had a friend who had a friend who had a gallery in Taos. And he was a realist, and he accepted me, and I shipped it out there. So I decided to give a workshop in the old Carrizo Lodge, which is down by Ruidoso. And that was very nice. And I drove up with Leslie, my wife at the time. And I'm outside of Santa Fe, and I feel like I'm in the country. So, I'm used to New York City, Long Island Sound. On the Long Island, you're 50 miles out, and you're going into a crowded place. And here I am, 12 miles from Santa Fe, and I'm out in the wilderness. I couldn't believe it. Well, we stayed in Santa Fe. We got there in an afternoon. I'm sitting on Canyon Road, looking at those adobes, the colors, the freshness, the skies. I say, holy Moses, this is special. And so I was sold. I was sold having a cup of coffee on Canyon Road. And then I went to the galleries. There's realism all over the place. Hey, I could fit into this. I could fit into this, and I did. And one makes in my opinion, for me, one makes a better living in Santa Fe than I did in Woodstock, New York. There's no comparison. Santa Fe is the second, third largest art market in the country. Woodstock, New York is maybe the 35th. I don't know what Woodstock, New York is. It was cold. I don't know. There's so much more possibilities in New Mexico for sure. I know New Mexico. Taos. I like the visuals in Taos also. I was torn between Taos and Santa Fe. And my wife at the time, we were going to have a child. She looked at the schools and she said, Santa Fe has better schools. So I said, okay, Santa Fe. But I've been up in Taos often and I've painted all around here. One of my favorite subjects was Adobe. Those Adobes, in the light, the different light, they glisten, they lean towards yellow, they lean towards pink, they lean towards orange. And there's something magical about it, especially the old Adobes. And I just got hooked. And to make a long story short, went back to Woodstock, New York, had yard sales galore, got the largest U-Haul you could find. 2 or 3 guys put everything in there. And I got a friend who likes to drive. I attached my car to the back of the U-Haul. I gave him $1,000, all expenses paid. And you could and you could stay with us in Santa Fe as long as you want, and I'll fly you back. And that was a great way to get everything. 5 days later, I got everything. I never looked back. I love it here. I'm in this studio now for around 30 years. I'd like to walk you around the studio and talk like that and start hearing a few questions. So Linda, my mate, she's going to walk around and show you, and I'm going to do the talking.
Okay, thanks, Albert. It'll be great to see the show.
Yeah. Hold on.
I gotta turn this around. Okay, there.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just please put them in the chat.
Oh, wait.
We'll try to get them answered.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. Racks. That's what they call them in the Art Students League. And I paint very regularly. I don't paint every day. Part of my career is to not only paint the pictures, but promote the pictures. Now, my advice to you folks is if the gallery can promote you better than you can promote yourself, be thankful for the gallery. For me, I don't know. Galleries are good and a pain. Okay. I have fluorescent lights And I have color corrected bulbs, whatever they're called. And I have them on individual chains. And I can control my light that way, rather than put them all on and all off, have individual control. Oh, I did a lot of portrait work. These days, that's my friend Jerry Schiffer. It's done on a dark sanded paper, what they polish metal with. I was told that I can get any paper I wanted, different size and special order. So I did that, and for a while I used it. Here is a portrait of my friend Richard Schmidt. May his soul rest in peace. And let me just do this, if that helps. I gave some workshops in Putney, Vermont, and Monday through Friday. And on Saturdays, Richard said, let's get the groups together. And we did, one year we did landscape together. The third year, I think it was, he said, let's do each other's portrait. I said, okay, fine. Now, Richard was an inspiration for me all my life, very much so. And so when it was Saturday, I said, Richard, out of respect for you, tell me what you want. And I turned this way and that way. And he said, I got it. And he said, what do you want? He said, I'm not sure right now. He liked to talk to everybody. And then he would work on the portrait, and I'd see his profile time and time again. So I figured that's my best shot. So, my workshop was landscape, and I wasn't able to switch that around for portraiture. So I made a drawing of it. I had a retrospective of my pastels at the Butler Institute of American Art. Flora Gaffuni, God bless her, gave the money for an entire gallery in the museum to be for American pastelists. And this is part of their permanent collection.
That's a beautiful piece, Albert.
Thank you. I've done 5 DVDs. There's 3 of them. And show them this table, hon.
You gonna show them this little oil here?
What?
You gonna show them this little oil here?
Oh, yeah. Here's a,
Stand in front of.
this is as big as it gets. And I can't tell you how many times I've been out on location, especially this one, time and time again. And it's not that I do a pastel so I can do an oil. When I do a pastel, it's for a pastel. I take the information inside of me, the inspiration I come up with these things. The light in New Mexico is breathtaking. I hope you don't mind seeing a few oils. I know we're a pastel group.
Okay.
And Linda showed the
Oh.
table nice and slow. Here are a few of the articles over the years. This one is from Australia. This one, Pastel World, is from China or someplace. And
Okay. Few brushes.
So Albert, is the article or the brochure, the book from the Butler, is that still available? Can people purchase that?
yes, they can. They can purchase it from me. I inscribe it to them. I charge $35, and if I have to ship it to them, I have to charge them for shipping. But yes, let me talk to you about this. The first half this too is at the Butler Institute. There's Jerry. I refuse to sell it. Okay, so the first part of the catalog has to do with the pastel retrospective. And the second part of this, these are all pastels, they're all sold. I have the oils. What it is, I had a wonderful gallery, Ventana Gallery. Connie Axton is the owner and the president. And she knew the photographer, she knew the printer, she had the insurance. In other words, when we borrowed, it's a lot of work, these retrospectives. Without Connie, I couldn't have done it. God bless you, Connie, and thank you. Really. Even though we're not together again right now, it was great. She had sold a lot of pastels. She was able to contact the collectors. She was able to store the works because she had insurance. She knew the printer, and she put up half the money. So the second half of the catalog is all oils, and they're all sold, and she sold them. So yes, it's available. I don't know anymore how much it costs to ship these things. Here is a pastel done right on Point Lobos area. Not touched at all, just Bing. Now, because it was not touched, doesn't mean if I thought I had to do this, that, or the other thing, I wouldn't do it. I would. Whatever makes the paint. All right. Okay, here are some more pastels done on location. Not touched. Same with this one. do we have here? This I did in the Putney area, which is quite a while ago. It
That's
got sold once or twice, and then fell through. That's the way life goes.
So Albert, what do you have a favorite substrate that you like to use for your pastels?
Do I have a favorite what?
Paper.
Yes,
Paper?
I do. I do.
Tool chests are great for this.
It's 500 grit. It comes from U Art. It comes mounted. Now that's important for me because I like to do mixed media pastel, watercolor underpainting, and finishing with pastel and marrying the two medium. Pastel is an opaque medium, and watercolor is as transparent as you can get. And this comes in a board, or you can get it as paper, but I don't want any buckling.
So, Albert, when you go out and work on location, are you doing an underpainting while you're out there?
Yes.
In
Yeah.
watercolor?
Here is a.
Yes, watercolor.
This is there's a watercolor underpainting here, and the foliage was done with pastel on top of it, and the water was left alone. So I can have a nice contrast.
Do you ever use the alcohol with pastel as an underpainting?
I have done that, and that works, but there's nothing like the transparency of watercolor. This was done on location and in the studio. I'm still working on it. And you can see the contrast. Did you get that?
Beautiful effect.
Let me show you this one. This received first place. I started this on location. The top part worked beautifully. The bottom did not work beautifully. I erased it. And a week later, because I was working on something else, it said to me, aha, this is what this picture needs. So that's what I mean by variation of a theme and crossover. The bottom part of this picture is lovely. And it was because I was doing a different picture. Go figure.
Oh, look at the adobe.
That's the house.
Yeah. Oh. Now here you can see the watercolor. And here is the pastel heavier.
Yep, that's really a nice effect. Deb just said she loves that you admit that sometimes a painting just doesn't work the first time, and sometimes you have to adjust it. And I think that's so smart, is to, if you have the opportunity to put a painting aside and then, like you said, flip it around and look at it, and what you see initially is so important to your to what you're going to do to that.
Yes, it has a lot to do with carrying power. This is something that a lot of my students carrying power. this is what we talked about at the Art Students League all the time, the carrying power. And give it a shot. Let's see what we have here.
You know, your paintings, Albert, there's such a luminosity to them and such a freshness to them.
I
They're
agree.
really, really lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate what you just said. I worked. Oh, let's see. We showed this.
Yes.
Okay.
Albert, what's that one that's on the floor? It's kind of an abstracty looking one. Yeah, that one that's right.
This one.
This one here, yeah. I in my workshops, I this is an oil. Can you sense the transparency going on? I found, oh, okay. When I was in Woodstock, New York, I wouldn't bother with the greens of summer. I waited for the greens to go, and I'd work on it during the winter months. And a lot of it was oils. And raw umber was a very important color. And I was demonstrating that to a group in one of my workshops. And it was done in an hour and a half, clearly explained. And then later I did something with the water. I forget exactly what. But well, yeah. So I like to get this type of effect with pastel. And for me, the alcohol breaking down the pastel works very nicely. But I find for me, a few lines and some watercolor. Let me show you something. Do I have time to, how much time do I have?
Yeah, well, we've got a little bit more time. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that come up on the chat.
Okay.
One of them, they're asking, do you ever enhance your UArt paper to get more texture, like using a ground on top of the sanded paper?
No. I don't do that, and there's no problems if you do that, no. One thing I will talk about is you have more than one color in each pastel stick. And let me show you that because for plein air painting, let me see if I can get this right. Okay. Let's take white. There's nothing. There's white. There's white. Now, to get this, I'd have to go find a different color, a different gray. That by just being very lightly. So white. You see how I have two colors out of this one stick. And if you get really good at it, you could have a third one. So when I'm doing water moving, I go with the flow. I don't stop and get something else. I just vary the pressure. And a lot of pastelists don't understand that. And and then I do something else. There's a color, and I could pick up all sorts of colors. Let's see what this looks like. Totally different. This looks darker than that. But if I creep up to it, I haven't prepped up to it. You got to touch it. And when you touch it, if there's no edge, you have two different colors of the same value. Now let me do it once again. There's that. And there's this. So I have my students and I help them in the afternoon paint their picture better. And also I insist upon some practicing here. Because look at that. Just look at that. Look how different they are. And look how there's no edge. And by varying the pressure, see how much darker that is? So I'm going to see if I can get a darker. Okay, let me see what this looks like. It's a question, it's not an answer. That will look better on here. Let's see what this looks like. These are questions that I ask myself. Okay, there's a cold green. There's a warm green.
Yep.
You see? This is something to learn about as you develop your pastels. Is this helpful to you all?
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Give me your questions one at a time.
Well,
I'm going to sit down.
The other question that someone asked is, if you're going out to do, or when you come upon a scene, I'm assuming they're speaking of going out in the field. Do you decide before you go out whether you're going to do an oil or a pastel? Or do you?
These days, I only work with pastel outdoors.
Okay.
To stay fresh. You know, I've been painting so long since I was 20. Really?
3.
Crazy.
Mhm.
No, I've made my decision. And for the person who is asking this question, my advice to them is to try both and see which one works best for you. And go after the one that works best for you. If it's pastel, it's pastel. If it's oil, it's oil. Don't shake them all up. Just go out, answer that question individually. I've answered it. The answer is, well, actually, I've done a few oils right on my property. But I don't, I work outdoors with pastel. Next question, please.
So someone asked if you would, do you have any more portrait work that you would show us?
Yes, I do.
I think that'd be great to see some.
Yeah. Linda, show them whatever you want to show them.
So, oh, while he's getting that,
Well, let me show, I know what's going on.
Someone's asking, Albert, too, do you ever work with gouache? And have you ever used that as an underpainting?
No, I've never used gouache as an underpainting. I'm not sure if I know the difference between gouache and watercolor, except that gouache, you have white. I could be wrong with that. What is this? Oh. Well, here's a portrait of the tree. Done on location. Look at the transition of the sky. That's making use of what I just showed you, but it's very subtle. It floats right in and out of each other.
Yeah, that's a beautiful transition.
I'll get it, Linda. Okay.
So, someone also is asking, when you approach a painting, do you do a value sketch or a notat before you start?
No. I'm at a point now. Let's say the English language. When you talk, do you worry about which adverb you're using or adjective you're using? You just talk, right? Can you see it?
Yep. That's a nice one. Do you ever
Yeah.
use canvas with gesso for a pastel painting? And if so, what are the advantages of doing so?
Say that again, please.
Do you ever use a canvas with gesso for a pastel painting?
Do I ever use gesso?
A canvas with gesso.
Canvas with gesso.
No. I used to use marble dust boards, which was a rougher surface. They discontinued it. And when I used the marble dust boards, it was at the Art Students League, where I had 2 or 3 sessions. And I would hold on for a second, please. Oh, this one. Can you see it okay?
Yep.
Yes, no?
Yes, absolutely.
I used ink for the black skirt. And my desire for color starts showing up nicely.
Albert, someone
Any
asked,
other question?
Yeah.
somebody asked how you get inspired to complete a not so good on location painting.
My advice to them is to relax. Don't worry, it's not finished. Be thankful for what you did. Turn it to the wall. And look at it the next day and respond immediately. Don't tickle it, that's my advice. And in my workshops, like I have one coming up next week, the first 3 days we work on location. And the 4th day, we stay in the studio and finish up or carry further. I'd rather use the word carry further what we have started the first 3 days. And that's a good, first of all, you gotta paint regularly. You gotta paint regularly. What is this? A lot of people don't paint regularly and they wanna know, you gotta paint regularly. No 2 ways about it. I don't know anybody who didn't paint very regularly who is accomplished. And so my advice to that person, God bless you, is to relax, figure out, you have to do some experiments. You have to figure out what size you want to work, what type of light you want, what subject you want, and do it. Now, you're allowed to experiment with the papers until you find the paper you like. If you find the paper you like, use it, please, please, just use that paper. Stop the experimenting. Now experiment with the subject and the light, not the paper. Does this help anybody?
Yes, those are all great words of wisdom, Albert. I think everybody should appreciate that.
I hope so.
You know, and don't you think sometimes, you know, don't when you're going to go out and paint outside, don't go out, you know, on the 4-hour hunt for the perfect spot. Go paint some.
Yes, I'll tell you a story. I was in Prospect Park, so it was 2021. And there was so much subject matter there that it was breathtaking. I didn't know which one to settle on, so I settled on one, and I said, well, let's see, it's 4 o'clock. I'll come back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I came back the next day at 4 o'clock, and I saw nothing. Nothing. I said, oh, shit, nothing. And I walked back to my car, and I said, I'll paint my car. And I still have that painting. I'll send it to you, and you can show it to everybody, okay?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so somebody said, would you come, Linda Evans said, would you come to Brookings, Oregon and Trinidad, California again? She said she'll help.
This sounds good. What's going on? Yeah. Yeah.
Do another workshop. Yep.
Who said what?
That was Linda Evans said, would you come to Brookings, Oregon and Trinidad, California again?
Yeah.
So you must have been there before.
I don't know. I don't remember names. I don't know.
You know, also you showed us a floral that was really lovely.
Yes.
It's right here.
Yes. I decided to keep it. It also received a prize.
Beautiful. Well, Albert, you know, we'll let's be talking about a workshop for PSWC, and whether we do it, whether it's in person or whether it's a video
Virtual.
one. You know, I think Jean Myers is on she's our workshop person, and so we'll I'll have her be in touch with you about that. And if you have any final parting words for the group, we've had a nice group of people on the chat, and then this will be also recorded and put on our YouTube video or YouTube channel, I should say. And yeah, so any parting words that you want to share with us?
It's been a pleasure. I hope it's been beneficial one way or another to some of you folks. I know what your dream is. I have the same dream. Take some of the advice I gave.
Come visit soon.
I have an open studio here in Santa Fe. If anybody's visiting Santa Fe and they want to visit the studio, you're welcome to. Just text me, email me. Linda, do you have any thoughts that you want me to share with everybody? Thank you for this opportunity.
Albert, you're very welcome, and thank you for your time, and you know, Linda as well. You guys were awesome to visit with and to set this up. And thank you for showing us your studio and your space. I think it's always interesting for people to see how we all store our work and show our work and our workspace. It might not, you know, it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal. You know, so
The workspace.
mine isn't, I can tell you that. But it's a place where we can go and we can work, and you've got a great space there. There was somebody said, hang on, let me look here. Oh, what phone number can we text you?
505 603 1524.
Thank you for that.
It's
And
on all your
Yeah.
Pastel journal ads.
And Albert
Oh,
just,
yeah, the Pastel Journal has my ads every issue, full page. And yeah, and you can find me. I'm not hiding from you. I welcome you.
and that's
Let me tell you about that. When I was 24 to 28 years of age, I was in France, and I visited Venice, which is unbelievable.
Once.
And there was a friend of mine who was a fellow student of Frank Mason who was there with his wife. And we were chatting, and an old Yugoslavian master came by who my friend knew. You know, he was around 45, 50, whatever it was. And they're talking to each other. And at one moment, my friend whispers to me, "You should see this guy's work." And they're talking, and I'm hoping that he invites me to his studio, which he did not do. And I was too shy to ask, and I felt terrible. So I figured today I'm the Yugoslavian master, and other people might want to visit my studio, and they're too shy to ask. So I advertise it. You're welcome to come visit. I mean, what more can I do? I can't drag you into it.
we
But
thank you.
it's open, it's available. What?
Oh, I was going to say, we thank you very much for that offer. Next time I'm in Santa Fe, I'll be down.
Okay.
So again, I want to thank you, Albert, so much, and Linda, for your time today. And we'll look forward to more chats in the future. And
Good.
if you ever want to come up to the Boise, Idaho area, I got a place for you to hang out and paint.
Well, Boise, Idaho sounds wonderful. If I can couple it up with a workshop, I'd gladly do it.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
All right. Well, listen, thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us on this We Talk Art. And next month, hopefully we're going to be visiting with Bethany Fields. So stay tuned for that. And Albert and Linda, you guys have a great rest of the afternoon, and take good care. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
It's hard to say goodbye.
Not saying
Goodbye.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, see you later.